Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this elephant painting process where I show you two different backgrounds. And yes, I did do two different elephant paintings in order to demonstrate this. And by the way, if you want to do this paint along with me on Patreon, head over there where you will get the line drawing, the reference, as well as the color palette and everything that I use in a step-by-step long-form version of this painting. And for only $5 a month, you get the whole shebang. You get all of these long-form tutorials, and you also get to be part of a really cool community full of like-minded artists and really supportive people, which is awesome. I mean, the community over there is really cool, so think about joining. Anywho, what I'm doing right now is I am using some washes after going over my line drawing with some acrylic inks in order to get my drawing to stay on the canvas. I didn't want to lose it when I did any of the acrylic washes over it. And I'm doing a blue and orange themed painting. So I wanted one half of the elephant to be more on the blue side and the other half to be more on the orange side. So because I'm working with transparent acrylics right now, the washes dry pretty quickly. So I'm starting from the lightest washes and working my way, building and deepening some of those shadows with the darker washes on top. And I continue doing this for a while as each layer dries, just continually building layer upon layer so that I have a really good form established. So now moving on to opaques, I start building more color on top of the washes that I've established and the shadows and everything, and I start bringing in a little bit more light and a couple more different hues, just mixing different colors together in order to kind of get some variations, really. And this is where I start creating some of the wrinkles of the elephant by bringing these highlights, and I'm very carefully just not covering everything else that I have already done. I don't want to cover all of my darks up, so I want to create those lines and wrinkles or the illusion of them by bringing some of the highlights and allowing some of those darks to show through. Got a very mandarin kind of color to the right side of the trunk, and so I start bringing in some of the brightest highlights where I want some of this abstraction to really kind of come into more relief, where it really does look more three-dimensional with these darker parts, these wrinkles, and having kind of this really cool pattern going across the trunk. I really liked how it was beginning to look. I thought it was kind of a neat looking trunk. So on the orange ear, I did start bringing in some of the darkest opaques, and then I wanted to bring some brighter colors, so I used a little bit of cadmium red for this, and I did wanted to brighten up this area quite a bit, so it really kind of contrasted with the light that's hitting the face of the elephant, and I think that worked really well. In order to get that watercolor effect with acrylics, I go into the same washes that I started with at the beginning, and I use a lot of water to kind of move that paint around and create this cloudy effect with some drips. And eventually what I do is I use the blow dryer to move that paint around even more to get a cloudy effect and wait for that to dry before I go on to the other side and do the same thing. Now, masking fluid is this really cool medium that's used by mainly watercolor artists, but I was like, well, if watercolor artists can use it with watercolors, why can't I use it with acrylic washes? So I decided that I would paint in some flowers and kind of make this really cool floral pattern going off into this cloudy kind of yellow area, and do the same thing on the blue side. And the cool thing about masking fluid is that it's like paintable masking tape, which is really neat because once you allow it to dry, you can paint over it with some of the darker washes and then allow that to dry and then peel the masking fluid off, and it reveals the pattern of the lighter washes underneath. Once all the washes have dried, you can then use your finger and just peel off that masking fluid to reveal that pattern that you painted on before. Pretty cool, right? Now it's time for the alternate background. So what I did was I created a cutout of my elephant and then put it over the elephant in order to protect it from the black spray paint. And I had to use some rocks in order to weigh the paper down so that it wouldn't seep underneath it. But then that gave me a really nice flat background that I could work with in order to create some splatter effects. And that was a really cool background too. So I ended up with 2 elephant paintings all in all, but did a little blue splatter on one side, a little orange splatter on the other side, so I had more of this nighttime kind of vibe going on with it. And then I used a paintbrush and added some dots of my own, a little bit of land for the elephant to walk on, and almost like the elephant was kicking up this really brightly colored dust, which I thought was really, really cool. So you tell me, which one do you like better, day or night?